Your vote just got cheaper, and that should piss you off. The Supreme Court just gave the party machine a cleaner lane to coordinate unlimited spending with their own candidates. No voters, no small donors, no independents, just the party machines. That sounds like boring campaign finance bullshit, but it's not. This is how the people with money get closer to the people with power. By the end of this, you'll know what changed, who benefits, and why both parties are going to pretend that this is about principle and point the finger at the other side like normal. Because this is not left versus right. This is you getting screwed. This machine versus everyone outside the machine. And before I break it down, comment one word below. What do you think? Republicans, Democrats, or both? Who benefits from this ruling? I want the comments to drive the next video because I think regular people already know this system can be rigged. Let's check this video out.
Financing, and as you pointed out, the Supreme Court does appear to have ruled on that campaign finance restriction clause, and it is, again, go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, no, this is a big one.
So here is the simple version. The case is National Republican Senatorial Committee versus the Federal Election Commission. 6-3. Kavanaugh wrote the majority. Kagan dissented, like normal in that aspect. The court struck down limits on how much political parties can spend in coordination with their own candidates. That means the party can work directly with the campaign on ads, timing, messages, and spending. Before, there were caps. Now, those caps are gone.
Coordinate directly with the candidate that they are, and to advertise with or on behalf of candidates that they are nominating and supporting. Why put up that barrier? And so the big difference to anyone watching or listening right now is only this. You will continue to see political advertising digitally and on the air. What will change is the fine print at the bottom and who exactly is paying for that advertising and how much they're paying.
Party spending limits violate the First Amendment, a lot of people say. Parties exist to elect candidates. Candidates and parties naturally work together. So limiting coordinated party spending limits political speech. That is the First Amendment argument. Fine. But that is the legal theory. But in a minute, I'm going to show you why the money itself is not even the worst. Like and subscribe if you're tired of both parties pretending the system is broken only when it is convenient for them and screwing you in the process and making you fight with your neighbor for no freaking reason. Because that is exactly what this ruling exposes. Republicans will call it free speech because it helps them right now. Democrats will call it corruption because it hurts them right now. And when the math flips, Democrats will use the same damn tool to do exactly the same thing. That is the part that nobody seems to want to say out loud. Not the news, not a lot of your political talking heads like this guy. But I will say it. Let's check this video out. That is where Kagan's dissent matters. The corruption warning is simple. If a donor can give huge money to a party and then that party coordinates directly with candidates, then the party becomes a backdoor to the campaign. It just is like, walk right on in, do what you want. And what the hell are we pretending anymore? And that is not carbon corruption. That is a bag of cash in a parking lot. That is legal corruption. That is the kind that everyone wears a suit, files the paperwork, calls it speech, and tells voters to shut up and trust the process. No more. That's bullshit. And then
political party, and then you can give it to the candidate, and that way I can get what I want. And so it was a prevention against that kind of corruption, and that was the justification. And here the court said, sorry, no. Like, that's too thin a reed to rest this particular kind of limit.
You're going to have all of Congress coming out there going, oh, we're going to pass laws to protect this, to protect that. They're going to bring laws to your attention that they're going to vote on and pass that they know won't see the light of day, that they know they have no support of getting passed. And they'll do that so that way election time comes, they're going to tell you, hey, we tried, all while they spent all that time and your money failing before they even started. Regular people understand this perfectly. When voters complain, they get lectures. When donors complain, they sure as hell get a meeting. When voters want reform, all we get is hollow answers. When donors want to get a hold of them, they get court cases or a front row seat. And yes, Republicans probably benefit first right now. They are the incumbents. But the reason why is kind of insanity. Republicans brought the challenge. The NRSC, the J.D. Vance, when he was a Senate candidate, and I believe Steve challenged the limits. And right now, Republicans are better positioned at the committee level to do this. Axios reported that the Republican National Committee had about $125 million cash on hand at the end of May. That's $125 million. That's not counting everybody else in the campaigns, nothing like that. That's just the RNC directly, guys. That part is insane. The Democratic National Committee slash DNC had about $15 million cash on hand. Whoa, that's a big drop. And I believe they had about 18 or $20 million in debt too. That's not a gap. That's a weapon for the GOP. And especially with Democratic socialists on the rise on the left, people aren't wrong. This could benefit the GOP. That's not a fake observation. That's not outrage news. That's not clickbait. That's fucking facts. So yes, this probably is the Republican advantage. And I'm not going to bullshit you on that. Democrats do not get to play pure. Democrats have lied inside the same big money system for years themselves. Super PACs, outside groups. And if you really want to know that, look at how they elect the presidential candidates. It is not a democratic process. Just look at Joe Rogan and Bernie Sanders thing. Bernie Sanders even admitted their last two candidates weren't elected properly. They use outside groups just like everybody else, donor networks just like everybody else, consultants, revolving doors, big checks, big access, big influence. They hate that loophole when it hurts them, but they love that loophole when it helps them. Same game, different party every single time. And here's the part that should really piss or tick you off. The ruling may not just create more spending. It may make the spending cheaper. Here's why. Let's check this video.
These questions, as much as it might seem at first, I think as long as there's transparency, the real justification was not, it wasn't that this is going to help small donors or this, it really was just to prevent corruption. And I think what the court is saying here, at least as far as I've read it so far, is like we just don't, we don't see this as a huge problem, that people are hiding their quid pro quo corruption through these, intermediaries of the, of the political party. They're using.
Are you saying then, Rebecca, that because that the PACs seem to have had more power than the actual parties themselves, what the court is saying is we're giving the political parties themselves at least equal power?
Reported that coordinated dollars can stretch farther because the campaign can access cheaper candidates, right? So now the price goes down. It's just like capitalism. Price goes down because supply goes up. Boom, there you go. You'd think they'd want to do that to our healthcare, right? Kind of lower the prices. But again, that'll probably be another bill that's dead on arrival, no matter how much campaign cash is in there. The NRC memo said candidates, their rates can be 3 to 13 times cheaper now. 3 to 13 times. That is freaking insane, dude. Think about what that means. Your $20 is still $20. Nothing got cheaper for you, but that machine can stretch it, 3 times and you get screwed. A party dollar becomes more ads now. More mail, more streaming spots, more pressure, more control they have over the narrative, even if it's false or if it's accurate or if they misstate something by accident. That's not just more money. That's more organized money, which opens the door to corruption. I'm not saying all politicians are corrupt. I'm not trying to say everybody in these parties are like that. I've had plenty of politicians on my main show, my podcast, The Middle Ground Mike. There's a lot of people out there that are great people, okay? You don't have to worry about that, but the more strategic money, more party-controlled money, and the biggest loser is not one party. The biggest loser is us, the American people. Independent candidates lose. The outsider candidates lose. Hence, Spencer Pratt, even though he had money, these things like that can hurt guys like him. Small campaigns lose. Anyone not plugged into the national fundraising machine loses. If you're not an independent, or if you're an independent trying to break through, good fucking luck. If you're a moderate Republican or a moderate Democrat, good freaking luck getting through with that. If you're trying to build a small donor campaign, good luck. This ruling does not just change spending, it changes leverage. Money decides who gets protected, who gets buried, which race gets the national showdown, which candidate gets rescued, which scandals are going to get released. And if you don't think that's not happening, look again. And this is why medium framing is too small. That's why you're really going to get that real talk, that real common sense American voice here on this channel. This is about both parties tightening control over their own voters. They're going to tell you that they're going to do something about it. And if they pass actual reform on this, I will come back on here and issue an apology to anybody that took it the wrong way. The party machine they don't fear the other party. They fear losing control of the voters. That's why this ruling matters. That's why this matters to committees. This strengthens the donor class, not the working class. So it's proven. The old coordinated party spending limits are gone. That vote was 6-3, pretty much along conservative lines. Kavanaugh wrote for the majority, like I said. Kagan dissented. What was still unknown? How far both parties are going to push this, right? How fast campaigns are going to build around it, and how much more power party committees gain over candidates. But the big picture is already clear. The parties got stronger just based on this. Donor class got stronger based on this. Maybe you think this is corruption. I don't know. Maybe you think it's both. But this all boils down to the fact that Congress has not done its job. Congress has not passed the law, but they're gonna bring you some virtual bills. That's my new phrase: virtue signaling bills. That's what I'm gonna call them. The bills that come to the table that they make these special announcements for and all this stupid stuff, I'm going to call them virtual signaling bills. Why? Because it literally means absolutely nothing. America was built on compromise, the good and the bad. You have to have people from both parties to really get anything done. Look at our country's history. You don't got to take my word for it. Look at history. Do we have a free speech win or do we have a corruption problem? You tell me, because your vote just got cheaper and the party machine just got stronger. Like and subscribe, share, let everybody in this world know exactly what you think.